Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one you won't believe. A tale of grief, betrayal, and a lawsuit so bizarre it feels like a crime drama. Imagine losing the love of your life, only to be served court papers claiming she's suing you, over a year after she's passed away. What starts as a shocking legal battle quickly spirals into a fight against fraud, forged documents, and family greed at its worst. Stick around, because this one takes twists you won't see coming, and the ending is pure justice. My name is Daniel Cross. And the day the lawsuit papers arrived, it was a Tuesday afternoon, one of those ordinary, quiet days you never expect to be etched into your memory. I had just wrapped up my remote work for the day when I noticed a slip from the postal service in my mailbox, a certified mail notification. I figured it was something mundane, maybe a tax document or some bank correspondence. The next morning I picked it up from the post office. The moment I tore open the envelope and saw the official court seal, my stomach knotted. My name was listed as the defendant in a civil lawsuit, for millions of dollars. But what stopped me cold wasn't the amount. It was who was supposedly suing me. The plaintiff's name was Clara Whitmore, my wife. The same wife who had been dead for over a year. Helen, no, Clara, and how we got here. Clara died on March 14, 2023, 2 days after what was meant to be a routine surgery. The operation itself had gone smoothly, but one of the post-op medications triggered a severe allergic reaction. Within hours, she was in anaphylactic shock. Despite the medical team's desperate efforts, the complications cascaded until her body couldn't recover. She was only 34 years old. We had been married for 8 years. We owned our home together, had joint bank accounts, and shared everything. She also had a modest retirement account from a previous job and a small investment stake in a leading agricultural chemical company. We weren't rich, but we were stable and comfortable. If there was one thing Clara had been consistent about, it was her strained relationship with her family. Her unmarried sister, Nina, and her brother, Mark, lived 2 hours away. They rarely called or visited unless they needed something. Clara called them leeches, always taking, never giving. Even at her funeral, which was a small and intimate gathering, they seemed more concerned with her possessions than with grieving. They asked vague questions about her estate, and whether she'd left instructions for her belongings. At the time, I chalked it up to awkwardness. Why the lawsuit made no sense. After Clara's death, everything transferred to me automatically because she died without a will, and under our state's intestacy laws, the surviving spouse inherits everything when there are no children. I went through the probate process with a trusted attorney, made sure every detail was legally squared away, and assumed the matter was closed. So imagine my shock when, over a year later, I was holding a lawsuit in my hands with Clara's name on it, as if she had risen from the grave to sue me. When I called the lawyer listed on the documents, he was just as baffled. After a long pause, he asked me to repeat what I'd said, that Clara had died over a year ago and was buried in Riverside Memorial Cemetery. Within days, the truth came out. The lawsuit wasn't from Clara at all. It was from Nina and Mark, her estranged siblings, with Nina listed as the primary plaintiff. They were claiming I had unfairly taken assets that should have gone to them, alleging Clara had owned separate property and business interests that I'd somehow seized. The amount they were after: $10 million. The legal reality versus their fantasy. When I met with my attorney, Paul Hastings, he explained that Nina and Mark's claims were built on either a gross misunderstanding of inheritance law or a calculated attempt to pressure me into settling. They claimed Clara had owned property independently before our marriage. In truth, she'd had a small condo, but we sold it and used the proceeds for the down payment on our house, which we jointly owned. They claimed her investment in the agricultural company was separate property. Wrong again. That stake was bought using money from our joint account during our marriage. Most outrageously, they accused me of manipulating Clara into changing her will to exclude them, except Clara had never written a will in the first place. The fraud emerges. The case moved into the discovery phase. That's when the situation escalated from family greed to criminal fraud. Paul noticed that some of the documents provided by Nina's legal team didn't match official records. A deed supposedly showing Clara's sole ownership of an investment property had different details than the county's version. We brought in a forensic document examiner. His findings were damning. The deed had been digitally altered. Dates, ownership percentages, even the formatting, all manipulated. Other documents, including bank statements, showed similar signs of tampering. Signatures didn't match Clara's real handwriting. Got worse. Nina and Mark had contacted Clara's old business associates, claiming to be her heirs, and even tried to reroute a quarterly investment payment and a life insurance benefit, both of which legally belonged to me. At that point, Paul brought in the district attorney's office. A detective in financial crimes took over, and before long, the fraud case was undeniable. The collapse of their case. Their lawyer withdrew from the case, leaving them scrambling for criminal defense attorneys. In court, Paul dismantled their claims piece by piece. Marriage certificate, death certificate, property records, beneficiary forms, all laid out in meticulous order. The judge dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice and referred the matter to the DA for criminal prosecution. Nina and Mark now face charges for document forgery, attempted fraud, and theft by deception, all felonies. The aftermath. The criminal charges shattered their bravado. They began calling me, leaving voicemails begging to put the whole thing behind us, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. Mark wrote a letter blaming Nina. Nina blamed bad legal advice. But their apologies didn't erase the months I'd spent battling them while grieving my wife. In the end, I filed a countersuit for my $38,000 in legal fees and damages for emotional distress. We settled $4,45,000. Every cent of my costs covered and then some. Meanwhile, their criminal cases moved forward, and I stopped keeping tabs. Whatever happened to them after that was no longer my problem. What I learned. Clara had been right. Her siblings were leeches. They'd barely shown interest in her when she was alive, but the moment she died, they saw dollar signs. I learned that when someone with assets dies, grief can bring out the worst in certain people. Documentation, legal guidance, and a willingness to fight are your best protections. They thought my grief would make me an easy target. They were wrong. When my wife died, I thought the hardest part would be learning to live without her. I never imagined I'd also have to defend myself against her own family, or watch them try to rewrite history for a payday. In the end, the truth won, the law worked, and the people who tried to exploit her death paid the price. If there's one takeaway from this, it's this. Protect your records, know your rights, and never underestimate how far greed can go. Thanks for watching, and if you want more unbelievable true stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new upload.